Welcome to the Joy Sports World Cup Tales. Now, we're building up to Qatar 2022, and it's important to look back at yesteryear and take focus and, of course, position ourselves in a way such that the big lessons from yesteryear will inform what we're going to do in Qatar so that we can have maximum performance and the results as well. Well, this is a man who played a very key role within the top administration of the Ghana FA at the time when Ghana secured her very first qualification for the FIFA World Cup. What is the essence of the management committee that everybody talks about? We'd get to learn about it and how the management committee at the time ensured that organization was top-notch and Ghana was able to record a first appearance at the Mundial in Germany in 2006. My name is Nathaniel Attoh, and I'm glad to welcome you on behalf of the Joy Sports team to this FIFA World Cup special as we build up to Qatar 2022. Welcome to the World Cup Tales. Thank you very much for staying with us here on this channel. And of course, as we promised you, we're bringing you conversations and tales from our participation in the FIFA World Cup, with special focus on that very first appearance in 2006. At this moment, we'd want to look at a very special operation within the medical operation of running the national team, which is the Black Stars. The very first psychologist to have worked with the Black Stars at the FIFA World Cup with the very first appearance happens to have loads and loads of interesting stories from the background which nobody would have had any privilege of hearing. And that's the reason why we're bringing you Joy Sports World Cup Tales right here. Dr. Yao Mfodwo is my guest. Several years of practice and several years of experience, under his sleeves, and managing what was a nouvelle operation at the time with the national team. And of course, we saw what the results were like, and we saw the kind of new bond that was created between the Black Stars team and the fans, those who followed from previously and the new ones who were converted during that World Cup. Doc, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, Nathaniel. Citizen Attoh.
Good to see you, Doc. It's been such a long while.
Yes.
How's your private practice going at the Brain and Mind Medical Center, though? Let's begin with that.
Okay, exciting. We've had some challenges in the last few years, but since they repaired the road in this part of the hood, business is really improving, and we've got an excellent team we've put together. I think everything is about teamwork. I'm sure we'll discover that from the football discussions. Everything is about teamwork. Yes, we are moving in the right direction, and in that respect, thank you for ordering us to do this interview here.
Doc, we had way earlier conversations. The next thing I saw in the news was my good friend Dr. Yao Mfodwo had been appointed the psychologist of the Black Stars. And at the time, not everybody was used to having a team psychologist, because of the kinds of resources that were available to the Black Stars, before that big sponsorship of Goldfields came in and things, turned around and changed. How did you land that job?
Thanks to my colleague and senior colleague, Dr. Tito Engman.
Okay.
So I think that what happened was...
Dr. Martin Engman.
Yes, Dr.
Great
Martin
guy.
Engman, yes, great guy. What happened was, after the fiasco in Egypt, which we did quite poorly at the
Africa Cup of Nations
Cup in Egypt, I think there was a serious panic, in terms of, okay, so what do we really do to not only repair the damage that in terms of how badly we did in Egypt, but, just avoid any embarrassment in inverted commas. So Dr. Engman rallied, okay, look, let's see what resources we bring together to especially from the medical side, but I think that there was a lot of stuff that also went on administratively as well. and there was the addition of a nutritionist, one late Professor Darko, and of blessed memory. I hope I can speak for him on this interview. So there was that almost like a panic situation. That's kind of what I sensed, and I think at that time Mr. Nyantichi, who was the
FA president,
was also very open to new ideas about how to do things differently, extra. So that's how come I, if you call it, I landed that opportunity or that job, and with one's passion and interest in sport, plus just another time I was actually based in South Africa, where we did a lot of stuff in the sports fraternity and arena anyway. So it kind of came naturally,
Let's get into working with the players and dealing with issues of psyching them up for the big challenge. We hadn't been there before. That first game against Italy, we didn't know what to expect. You could feel the jitters on the night. We lost by 2-0. I mean, what was the mindset going into that game? How did you manage all of that?
Okay, I think I'll just step back a bit and say that the first real assignment that one had to deal with was even before the Italy game.
Okay.
And that was, we took an excess of, I think, 3 or 4 players to the tournament. And so some had to be dropped to make the final 23.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, Bafo Jan, Yusuf Chipsa, and the famous Baba Mando.
Yeah, I remember.
The famous Baba Mando were dropped.
Yeah.
And so the first assignment was to almost like debrief those who had been dropped. And yes, it was a very tough assignment because if anyone who has had any interactions with Baba Mando knows that this is the true perfect narcissist. I mean, a self-love for himself, a self-belief, and could really have derailed the whole. So it was first having to deal with his disappointment. Then there was the other challenge of having to deal with Bafo Jan, because and I'm sure that you can relate to this a lot better, but if you've watched the relationship between Bafo and Asamoah, Bafo basically he's so close to Asamoah that it's almost like he had to give Asamoah Jan permission to play when he had been dropped.
Yeah.
So it was also now, and in mental health and psychiatry or psychology, you call that situation almost like a folie à deux, like the control or the influence of one, whether the person is married or has wife, husband, brothers, whatever. So you had to deal with Bafo in almost getting his permission to allow Asamoah to perform.
Wow.
So that was also a very, I mean, it was interesting, the dynamic. I mean, I didn't realize how intimate,
deep-rooted.
Exactly. And I suspect that it must have played out again when in the 2008
Africa Cup of Nations.
So I was not part of the setup, but I could immediately see the dynamic, and they had to call President Kufuor but the dynamic of Asamoah and Bafo was very interesting challenge to deal with. So we had to deal with that. Then of course there was the dynamic also of the suddenly having to change goalkeepers. Suddenly having to change goalkeepers. So because at the time this ex-Heartsoak, Samia J was the number one, and
Richard Kingston
had just rejoined the team, and some dynamics, you know, free kicks, whatever, you know. So the coach and the goalkeeping department extra decided no, it was high time there was a change. So now we had to debrief Sammy who was going out, and brief again Richard Kingston who was, so again managing these dynamics somewhere in the background. So it was, you know, that kind of dynamic. But I think that, you know, the World Cup is a big stage, and incidentally again we were hosted in Würzburg, which is part of Bavaria, and at the time, though Sami Kufo had left and joined this Italian team for Roma.
Yes, Roma.
I mean, he was like he was like
an icon.
Yes, he was like a god in that part of
Germany.
So, I mean, the warm thing which we received and the extent of the occasion, it needed very little in terms of actual psyching people up, but it was more having to deal with the disruptions and the diversions before. So that was what it was. It was really about, Okay.
Well, if you're just joining us, these are the Joy Sports World Cup tales. And we are just getting close to the men and women who have been in charge of our World Cup appearances, throwing specific focus on the very first mission, which was staged in Germany. Eventually, Italy, whom we lost to in the first game in the tournament, won the competition, with Captain Fabio Cannavaro lifting that trophy. There's a big assignment to undertake in Qatar, and ahead of that, would just want to get back, get a historic perspective as we get our minds and shape our minds forward. The very first psychologist I've worked with the team, Dr. Yao Mfodwo, is my guest today. Doc,
yes, sir.
Now, so we dealt with all of these issues, all the egos, all the disappointments and all of that. Then we had to get ourselves into match situations. Samuel Seikofor, with his passion and all of that, went ahead, placed a bet with one of his former teammates about, you know, winning the game and all of that. Ghana lost by 2-0. Now, how did we get ourselves into that mode? I mean, how did the whole technical team and all, the playing body, get themselves into that mode to be so upright and so ready and so, you know, results-oriented to win the next game?
That, again, very, very, very recap. It's almost like first game was in, was it Gelsenkirchen or was it in, yeah, that must have been the home of Schalke.
Sure.
I think that was in Gelsenkirchen. The first game was in Gelsenkirchen. The second game, I think, was in Cologne. Okay. So, again, just casting one's memory back. After the first game, we were all kind of disappointed and whatever. And then I happened to sit by Tony Eboa.
Okay.
In the bus on the way. Then he made some very interesting comments that, oh, you know, we created a lot of chances. We played very well. We created a lot of chances, but our finishing let us down. He was talking like a striker and whatever. He said, oh, our finishing let us down. So I listened to him and I said, oh, you know, then he said to me, look, you know, when we watch our training, you know, we play very well, but we squander chances. You know, so that struck a chord with me. So what I immediately did was I went to speak to Mr. Celestete.
Then assistant coach.
Assistant coach. I said, Celas, you know what? This is what Tony said, and that there is almost like a direct reflection between the chances we waste in training and how we would perform in a game. You know, it's not like we don't create the chances, whatever, but we have to target and finish. So for the next I think we had 4 or 5 days between the game. For the next 3, 4, 5 days, I decided on an assignment. The 2 strikers, Matthew Amwa and Asamoah Gyan, I called both of them and I told them, look, this is the feedback I've gotten from that we create, but we don't put the ball in the net, or we don't. So we're going to do an exercise where at the end of each training session, I will tell you whether it is shooting practice, whether it is heading, whether it is whatever. I will tell you what percentage you hit the target,
okay,
and what percentage you actually scored.
Okay.
The first day, Matthew took it, okay, but he didn't really
get himself into
it. So yeah, I gave him feedback and he kind of. But Asamoah, wow! I think we all started around, I think if I can remember very clearly, it was around 4, 5, 50, around 50 or 60%, if I can remember. By the day before the game, Asamoah Gyan was at 90%.
I see.
I'm telling you, I can remember very clearly. Asamoah Gyan's target hitting, and of course, if you hit the target in terms of once the football goes towards the goalpost, the chances are that you score. So between the Italy game and the Czech game, Asamoah's percentage of hitting the target went from wherever it was when we started, and I can remember, like I said, I can remember very clearly, it was 90% target. What happened?
Wow.
What happened? First touch, go.
Interesting.
His first touch in that game against the Czech Republic, his first touch, he scored.
Wow.
And in terms of when you also think about human efficiency, you are best at what you do, especially when you are fresh and when you are almost like at your sharpest, So I mean, the work behind the scenes was that is what it was a simple measure of actually counting how, and just persistently feedback, count. You just throwing the ball to head, whatever. You gave him feedback. He listened, and he hit the target. Matthew, one day he would do it, the next day, so that was, for me, that was the significant change, apart from also the nerves having, okay, the nerves are out of the window. I mean, somebody like Suleiman Tari, the first game against, he was overhyped. He had
so much confidence.
Yeah, and he had so much that he didn't perform. But the second game, he was a lot more calm, composed, relaxed, So it was a combination of getting through the jitters and, okay, so now this is it. We can do this here. And then, I think that also that laser focus in terms of in front of goal. And in that respect, Asamoah Gyan should have scored about 3 or 4 goals in that game. Yeah. But just the mere fact that he broke, you know, and that really broke them because it was an early goal, and it almost kind of just we built on that momentum. Yeah.
Wow, interesting stuff there. So a lot of things culminating into the results that we saw on the stage. I mean, if I'm putting this in a theatrical or a performance, stage performance concept. Now, we went ahead, we beat the US, made it to the next round. It was massive. Here in Ghana, people were going bonkers. People were just crazy, you know, because this was first time bliss for everybody. And then we get up against Brazil and the momentum just...
Again, just watching from the inside and now from the sidelines, we just remember, look, the US game, again, tough one. And tough one also because when the US is involved in something, there's always some politics or whatever.
Political twist, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were playing in, we played in, what's this, the name of this, Nuremberg. We played in Nuremberg. Now, for whatever reason, there are lots of Turkish, Iranians in Nuremberg. The anti-US favor.
I see.
Which worked in our favor.
I see.
My word. I mean, the Turks and the Iranians, the anti-UN, the support we got. It's amazing. So again, it was almost like a momentum that was carrying, you know. Now, again, dynamics playing. You saw what Painsil did.
Sure.
At the end of the game.
Yeah, waving the Israeli flag and, you know, thinking that he was showing solidarity to his club and wanting to keep a place there.
Yeah. I again, the political ramifications.
Yeah.
I mean, the phone calls that came from Egypt.
Wow.
The what?
Yeah.
Hey, that incident. Of course, I mean, he was oblivious to, you know, but there were political ramifications and whatever, and the tensions that it created. So, again, we had to deal with all that before the Brazil game. Now, Brazil game, you did this. I would say this, then that.
Okay.
The reason being that, you know, that was a big occasion. And suddenly we were faced with another thing that it's like, on reflection, no one saw it coming. But okay, before the games, the first few games are scheduled and tickets are pre-sold and you book whatever. So there's a system that even if you don't know and I'm familiar with, you kind of fall in line. After the first round, now it's unknown pairings. Brazil, Ghana. The phone calls, the disruption by especially the supporters from London wanting tickets, because tickets now were released by FIFA. And of course, Brazil in any World Cup is a big game, but this is this exciting Ghana team that's beaten Czech, number 2 in the world at the time. I think US number 4.
And then, US was number 5.
Exactly. So already causing trouble, you know, and then with the support from the Würzburg crowd again. So everybody was rushing to the Ghana camp for tickets. Suddenly, all our energies went from managing the team to handling tickets.
Tickets.
Wow. And of course, the players, center of attention, family members wanting tickets, whatever, all kinds. I mean, the disruption, the mental disruption that happened before that Brazil game, you have no idea. So it was not about the inability to, but it was, I think, a loss of focus, because we were suddenly presented with something we have never experienced before, and our human resource capacity within the camp, we were unable to handle what had been thrown at us. I mean, that's the way I saw the whole. So again, big occasion, ready to play, etc., etc. But like you were describing earlier on, it's almost like the game is a performance, but it's like the preparation and the act is like you're learning your lines, etc., etc. And if you fluff those, how do you perform?
Doc, like you said, so much to share, yet time is not our best friend. But in wrapping up this conversation, we went to South Africa 2010. It was a big one. And then in Brazil, things crumbled. I remember when you rightfully predicted in a conversation in Accra, ahead of, those group games at a certain point where you said you didn't have a good feeling about things going on in the camp and that. And truly, things went wrong in a big way. As we build up to Qatar, in brief, what would you advise we do so that we keep the focus and rid the team of all of these external influences and stimulus that could derail the focus of what should be done on the pitch?
I think, again, united teamwork, focus. I mean, somebody like the current coach, Attoh, has been there. He was part of the 2006. He's seen it all before in terms of, so just focus, simple things, settle all the, whether it is, again, money is not, it's not even the amount of money. It's not, I mean, people make a whole big song and dance, but I mean the kind of money that these players are paid, it's really it's a drop in the ocean. But it is also such that you settle everything, because you don't want to have a situation where anybody's emotion is diverted from
Sure.
what they got to do. I mean, just a simple analogy. Look, when you got to eat, your blood flow is diverted to your stomach. So if you got to play, your blood flow is diverted to your legs, your arms, whatever. And if you got to get angry or whatever, blood flow goes to the brain, and it's just So
Exactly, yeah.
So it's important to simplify things by not be diverted by unnecessary stuff. So sort out all the simple basic things and let the players focus on, and the team and whatever focus on the work that they are there to do, to deliver. That's it.
To deliver indeed. Doc, thank you so much. It's been wonderful sharing your company, and let's do a lot more of these in these times. Well, so as we told you, there are loads and loads of back tales to be told, and that's exactly what we're doing here on Joy Sports World Cup Tales. Well, another guest for another edition, but we'd like to say a very big thank you to Dr. Yao Mfodwo, the very first psychologist in history to have handled the Black Stars at the FIFA World Cup. And of course, he is the CEO of the Brain and Mind Medical Center. All right, so another conversation to have as we build up to the very big one, the Mundial in Qatar. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Nathaniel